Have you been at Greenfield for a long time? Oh, my.
Yeah.
Is that we're watching it?
That's what they said.
Live, and then 251 watched it total then?
Gotcha.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Margaret Perot, the President and CEO of the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. I'm happy to be here on the second night of the Candidates Forum here at the City Council Chambers. As the pandemic continues to impact our business community, the Batavia Chamber is working hard to support our chamber members, our businesses, and our town. Through advocacy, education, and building a network of support, the Chamber promotes an environment for local businesses to survive and even thrive in this current economy. As an organization whose mission is to advocate for businesses and economic development, the Batavia Chamber has special interest in knowing what is going on in our government. The Batavia Chamber has 450 business members and approximately 1,500 representatives. More importantly, the Chamber is made up of citizens who live and work in this area. This is our home, and our members want to know who their elected officials are and what issues where they stand on the issues that affect us all. The Batavia Chamber is pleased to co-sponsor this Candidates Forum with the League of Women Voters because we want to keep our community informed now, during the crisis, and for the future. We all benefit from an open exchange of information and ideas. The Chamber is happy to help maximize this awareness. I want to thank all the candidates here tonight for participating. Thank you to BATV for live streaming, and thank you to everyone who is tuning in to this forum. I would like to express my gratitude to the League of Women Voters for arranging this event and partnering with the Batavia Chamber. Now I would like to introduce Patty Lockman, the Voter Service Chair of the League of Women Voters. Patty is an active and valued member of the Batavia Chamber of Commerce and has worked diligently to bring this evening together. Patty will start this program tonight. Thanks, Patty.
Thank you, Margaret. We are very pleased to be able to use the Batavia City Council chambers once again. And if you look around, if you can, with your BATV camera, you can see that there are very few of us here in this COVID encrusted, or I shouldn't say encrusted, COVID type room. So we are socially distanced and we are all wearing masks. As a result, we have no audience, but we have been able to solicit questions from the public using various methods, including our contacts with the public and through our websites. We have gotten questions from local community groups, churches, and people from the community that are very interested in what's going on. I am pleased to introduce my friend Barb Lamons from the Wheaton League of Women Voters, who will act as tonight's moderator. Here you go, Barb.
Thanks, Patty. Thank you all. What I'd like to do is welcome you to the evening's candidate forums. Tonight we're going to have forums with the Kane County Auditor, the Kane County Clerk at 6 p.m., the 16th Judicial Circuit of Kane County at 7 p.m., and the Kane County Board Chair at 8 p.m. All of them sponsored by the Leagues of Central Kane County and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. My name is Barb Limons, a member of the League of Women Voters of Wheaton, and your moderator for this evening. I do live in DuPage County, so I will not be voting for any of the candidates participating in the forums this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League is not affiliated with any political party. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government and have civil discourse. If there is any controversy, our interest is to bring balance and fairness to the discussion and ensure that all parties are heard. Providing forums is a major mission of the League of Women Voters, so citizens can become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. At this time, I would ask those here in attendance to please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. And I would also ask you to refrain from applauding or in any ways demonstrating support or opposition to any candidate. As Patty said, questions for tonight's forums have been submitted in advance from various community groups and voters. Questions have been screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. They will each present a 2-minute introductory statement. The order is to be alphabetical. Then submitted questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Candidates will be informed if more time will be given to certain questions. Members of the league will act as timers, and I will enforce the time limits. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask him to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. I was a school teacher, so I'm pretty good at that. Closing statements will be 2 minutes. We will start the evening's forums with those seeking to be Kane County Auditor. Mr. Terry Hunt is here. Penny Wegman. Ms. Wegman has chosen not to participate this evening. So Mr. Hunt will be given 2 minutes to make a statement. Mr. Hunt.
Well, thank you. Good evening. My name is Terry Hunt, and I'm the Kane County Auditor. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. The County Auditor is the only elected official authorized to evaluate and conduct internal audits of the county's operations. I earned my degree in accounting and have 45 years' experience in accounting and auditing, including the last 8 years as your county auditor. In addition, I have nearly 500 hours of CPE and training specific to governmental auditing. My internal audits have returned over $5 million to the county's general fund, and every one of my audit reports is published on the website. In my first campaign, I promised 100% transparency. I kept that promise, providing the public with complete transparency and easy access to the county's financial information. First, through Kane County Open Gov, and I recently upgraded to Kane County Open Finance, which displays financial information on a near real-time basis. Kane County was the first and remains the only county in Illinois to earn a perfect 100% transparency rating from the Illinois Policy Institute. I'm proud to be part of the team, which includes David Rickert and Tom Hartwell, and has provided Kane County with proven leadership by maintaining a balanced budget without increasing the county's tax levy or borrowing for revenue shortfalls, refinancing general obligation bonds, saving taxpayers over $2 million in interest expense, reducing the previously existing bond indebtedness by almost $57 million over the 8 years we've served together, representing a 75% reduction, fully investing in our pension plan with an average funding level of 93.5% over the last 5 years. It's been my honor to serve the community for nearly 8 years as your county auditor, and although our team has accomplished much, we are facing new challenges which can only be met successfully with continued proven leadership. I am Terry Hunt, and I'm asking for your vote to serve again as your Kane County Auditor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Now, we're going to take a short break, and please rejoin us at 6 p.m. for the forum between Kane County Circuit Clerk. Thank you.
Good.
Boy, you were right on time.
Okay, Barb.
Hi, welcome to this evening's candidate forum for Kane County Circuit Clerk. Sponsored by the League of Women of Central Kane County and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. My name is Barb Lymans, a member of the League of Women Voters of Wheaton, and your moderator for this evening. I do live in DuPage County, so I will not be voting for any of the candidates participating in the forums this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League is not affiliated with any political party. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government and civic discourse. If there is a controversy, our interest is to bring balance and fairness to the discussion and ensure that all parties are heard. Providing forums is a major mission of the League of Women Voters, so citizens can become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with candidates running for office. At this time, I would ask those here in attendance, please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask those in attendance to refrain from applauding or otherwise demonstrating support or opposition to a candidate. Questions for tonight's forums have been submitted in advance from various community groups and voters. Questions have been screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. They will each present a 2-minute introductory statement. The order is to start alphabetically. Then submitted questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Candidates will be informed if more time will be given for certain questions. Members of the League will act as timers, and I will enforce the time limits. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. Closing statements will be 2 minutes. So tonight, right now, I would like to welcome Teresa Barrero and Tom Hartwell, candidates for Kane County Circuit Court Clerk. Ms. Barrero, would you like to give your opening statement?
Thank you. Good evening, Kane County and League of Women Voters. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Teresa Barrero, and I am candidate for Kane County Circuit Clerk. For the past 8 years, I have been serving as a Kane County board member in District 2, which includes portions of Aurora and North Aurora. During this time, I have served on many committees and held leadership roles. I had the honor to serve as Foreclosure Task Force Chair, Development Committee Chair, Community Development Block Grant Committee Chair, Jobs Committee Co-Chair, Judicial and Public Safety and Finance Committees, and member of the Kane County Forest Preserve Executive Committee, and I serve as the Chair of Planning and Utilization Committee. Prior to that, I worked for a financial advisor, the City of Aurora, and Kane County. At the City of Aurora, I worked in the building permits, community development, and the city clerk's office. At Kane County, I worked in the county clerk's office. These experiences, as well as my time as a Kane County board member, have provided me with a solid foundation to serve as circuit clerk. I believe that the circuit clerk's office should be a nonpartisan position like school board and library districts. It should also be an appointed position, but since it is not, I hope to educate the public that this position has nothing to do with national politics. The circuit clerk provides a narrow scope of services to our residents. They are responsible for filing and archiving court paperwork and records, collection and court fees, scheduling court dates and staffing, coordinating jury duty, including hiring and training of staff. As your next circuit clerk, I will put people first. My goals are to implement a customer survey to see how the circuit clerk's office is doing, meet with judicial and legal representatives to identify areas for improvement.
Ms. Barrero, I'll ask you to bring your comments to a close, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Hartwell, your opening statement?
Thank you. Again, I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce for holding this forum. I'm running to serve. I want to use my talents, my knowledge, and my experience to make Kane County a better place. We all want safe neighborhoods, fairness, and justice. I am Tom Hartwell, and I am the circuit clerk. I have unique legal management experience, which is an asset as a circuit clerk. Over the last 7 years, I've used this experience to make services better at the clerk's office, provide services that have never been provided before, at the same time saving $7.5 million for the taxpayers. I remember when my life changed. I was a young attorney in my office in South Elgin, and a woman came to me, and she was crying because her son was in Cook County Jail. He became involved in gangs. And I felt helpless as she said, "What can you do for him?" And at that time, I realized what we had to do is we had to reach out to these young people before they got in trouble. And shortly thereafter, I hooked up with a young man by the name of Joel Perez Jr., who's a former gang member. He had a passion for young men who was in this difficulty, and I helped him form God's Gym, and I was the first chairman. God's Gym was an anti-gang program in Elgin and Aurora. In that first year, I helped him bring 30 young men into quitting the gang lifestyle. I've also been in many other service organizations like Rotary International, American Heart Association, and South Elgin's Lions Club. And it's this notion of service that I bring every day to work as your circuit clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, the first question is for you. What is the importance of the circuit clerk to residents of Kane County?
The importance of the circuit clerk is they are the administrative arm to the 16th Judicial Court System. So circuit clerk office actually just maintains all the court records for the court system, and your tax dollars pays for it. We collect fees and court fines and traffic tickets. Anything that goes to the court system, that's what the circuit clerk's office does. They collaborate with legal and government partners.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, the same question. What is the importance of the circuit clerk to residents of Kane County?
Certainly. The circuit clerk's office is part of the judicial branch of government. It's not part of the legislative branch. It's not part of the executive branch, but it is strictly judicial. Legal experience is a necessity. As your circuit clerk, I'm responsible for over 100 employees. 23,000 court files go to court every single month. Through innovation and technology, we've saved the taxpayers millions of dollars, and we've made it more efficient by making this information more accessible. For example, there's 40 million files, documents in file, and many of those documents can be accessed online, at an attorney's office or at home. This convenience helps taxpayers have access to that information in a quick and easy way. And for attorneys, it is really good, it's advantageous because then it doesn't cost money and time for them to come to my office and see these documents.
Thank you. Next question. If elected, Mr. Hartwell, you'll answer first this time. If elected, what is something you want to accomplish in the circuit clerk's office? And the second part of the question is, how long will it take to accomplish this?
Well, we've brought about many new solutions in the office as it is. We've brought in a new case management system, which provides for great access to this information as well as allowing us to do our jobs quicker and better. We have now what's called e-file, which allows people to file remotely. Research Illinois, which allows us to coordinate with other counties to get the information. We've gone fileless in our court system. And we're looking now to take the next step, which is to, within the office, institute a electronic system where we can monitor the activities of our employees so that we can better communicate with them. if we can find out where their strengths are and be able to use them, and also be able to find out where their weaknesses are so that we can train better.
Ms. Barrero, the same question. If elected, what is something you want to accomplish in the circuit clerk's office? And the second part of the question is, how long would it take to accomplish this?
Well, first, I would like to say that I will be the first one in and the first one out. The current circuit clerk has not been in the office on a regular basis, so it proves that have a legal background, you do not need. This is an administrative role. So I will be the first one in and the last one out. I will do my job that the Kane County residents paid for with their taxes. I plan to have some in-house collections, which is a payback. We could create a payback process so that late fees are not going off to a third-party administrator, so they go to collections. I plan on doing some of that in office, but my main priority will be to go to work.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero and Mr. Hartwell, next question. How do you balance security of your records while keeping the records accessible to the public? Ms. Barrero.
How do we balance the security? Well, right now, they have established that through our IT. I have great faith in Roger Fonstock and our IT department. I do not have too much faith in the Tyler management system that we do have that did cost the county $6 million back in, $4 million back in 2014. We pay $2.2 million for every 5 years for maintenance. So there are some things that we do need to look at, and that is one of them. I don't have a lot of faith in the Tyler system, but I have faith in our IT department.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, same question.
Can you repeat the question so I make sure I get it?
How do you balance security of your records while keeping the records accessible to the public?
The security of the record is done through electronically. Of course, there's documents that are impounded, and those are held separately so that it cannot be accessed. Plus, we use multiple passwords and that information to take those records which are not supposed to be in public view, and then they're not. And then the rest is a matter of allowing the public to see what is available as it should be. And as far as, where I work and what I do, I'm accessible 24/7. There's been many times I've been called late at night, especially when situations come up. So being physically in the office doesn't mean I'm not at work.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, this round will start with you. What is the biggest challenge facing the Kane County Circuit Clerk position? And the second part of the question is, how will you resolve it? So what's the biggest challenge and how will you resolve it?
Currently, the largest challenge is what we face with the coronavirus situation. It's the safety of my employees. And we address it by using social distancing, having proper equipment that is there, and continually monitoring the situation. One of the challenges is people sometimes put their guard down. And we can encourage people that are away from their desk that they should have masks on and that they should protect themselves. Now, part of our responsibility is going to the courtrooms, and our Chief Judge Hull has done a very, very good job in those locations. But part of our responsibility is to watch the physical plant. As we're getting more and more people to come into court, we have to think about spacing. We have to think about rooms and places to put them. And we've been coordinating with the Chief Judge to be able to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero?
Can you repeat the question?
What is the biggest challenge facing the Kane County Circuit Clerk position? And the second part is, how will you resolve it?
Well, currently, other than the pandemic, which we all are experiencing, currently the biggest challenge right now is the computer system. And we have put thousands of dollars into it, and we need to invest in an outside expertise to take a look at it and see where our failures are. If we could correct these issues with the system, it would be more work efficiently. It would create better service, and it would also help with the staff. Virtual courts is something that, going forward, I think we need to try and to continue, and we can create flex time with that so that we will decrease the amount of overtime expenditure.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, you'll start with this question. Why should voters care about the election of the circuit clerk position?
Great question. I hear this all the time of campaigning, because it's your tax dollars, because you pay for a portion of it. The courts, other than the fees that also help, the court fees help pay for it also, but your tax dollars pays for it. We need to be transparent. We need to have Freedom of Information Act as a vehicle for the public. By having a Freedom of Information on the website, people can go on, see what if somebody else has already looked into something and maybe the answer is there, or possibly then mail something in. But we have to be more transparent, and we have to have online accessible services to the public.
Mr. Hartwell, why should voters care about the election of the circuit clerk position?
Well, certainly, because the justice is important and the court system is important. And one of the biggest problems we have is access to justice is so expensive. And that's why I'm proud of the fact that I and my staff have been able to save $7.5 million, because that makes that access even less expensive. The system that we have is a good system, and of course, it's not perfect, but it's good, and I'll tell you how good it is. Number one, the state of Illinois decided to adopt that system from Tyler Technologies. The state, Cook County, which is the largest county in the state, are using Tyler Technologies as well. So this is something that we've paid a lot of money for, there's no doubt, but we've also gotten the benefit to the tune of $7.5 million. That means it's a pretty good system. As for access to documents, you come to my office, you'll get access to any document you need. Whatever's online is readily available. People don't have to come to the office to see what their court dates are. What's great is you don't even have to come to the office to schedule anymore. Those are things that you can do online.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, you'll start with this question. How will the circuit clerk's office ensure those using e-file is user-friendly? Will you need to modernize current equipment?
For e-file is not an issue of equipment. For attorneys, it is a system that is purchased by the state of Illinois and is operated by the state in order to have access to our local management system, which is called Odyssey. Now, what is important to us is that there's access for self-represented litigants in the courthouse or at the law library. And we've teamed up with and of course, that's something that we can't do. We're not allowed to give legal advice, but we certainly are in support of people who come to our office or to the law library and get the information they need so that they can file the documents as they're looking to do.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, how will the circuit clerk's office ensure those using e-file is user-friendly? And will you need to modernize current equipment?
Yes. E-filing is a great system. I hear a lot of negative and a lot of positive. I know that a lot of our systems they're not cohesive with other systems. They're not the same that are being used in other counties. So there's a lot of things here that need to be a little tweaked, and we're working right now with our IT department and the Tyler management system. Now, the problem is my opponent keeps saying that he's saving $7 million, but in reality, that was money that's been cut from his budget by the county board. The county board has been cutting the budgets for the past, well, I've been on it 8 years, and I know that every year, he's boasted 2 million, but in reality, those were the cuts that were already set by the county board.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, what plans do you have to ensure smooth data sharing with the stakeholders in Kane County criminal justice system?
By explaining just what I've been talking about. We need to work with an outside organization or an outside to look at our system to see what works for the county. Currently, we have, I think there's 3 systems. We were told we were going live. Oh my gosh, they were going to go live back in 2017. That failed. So they were going to go live in 2020. No paper. That failed. The problem is that you have to have a system and that everybody can use that will work with the judges and the attorneys and the circuit clerk's office. And I'm sure this is something that can be easily handled, but the problem is it hasn't been. And I've had a lot of employees and constituents question the system and how much we've paid into it.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, same question? Would you
Certainly. Odyssey is a special system, especially the way it was purchased in Kane County, because Odyssey is a system that is for the clerk, as well as the judiciary, as well as the public defender and the state's attorney. So those are all integrated right now with exactly the same system. We all are using the same system. So to go out and buy another system to integrate to that which is already integrated wouldn't be best use of our money. In fact, working together in cooperation saved the county $1 million, because if each of those judicial partners went out and bought a separate system, it would cost an additional $1 million. So there's an example of how, working together, we've been able to benefit the taxpayers with a better price and a better product.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, how can you ensure the orders of protection for domestic violence victims are sent to local police as well?
To ensure that is the responsibility of the sheriff to serve. It's not the responsibility of the clerk. But our current order of protection system does exactly that. It automatically sends by email any order of protection that is set out, and then the sheriff gets it instantaneous. And what happens is, many times before the victim even gets out of the building, the sheriff is able to serve the offender or alleged offender at home. So the system works very well right now in terms of speed.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, how can you ensure that orders of protection for domestic violence victims are sent to local police as well?
Well, I agree that everything is pretty much in the system currently, and a paper copy does go, or is faxed or what have you, onto the sheriff's office. But when we used to have the GPS monitoring, something I fought very hard for on the county board, but we cut it due to finances. When we had the GPS program, not only was the police notified that this order of protection was served, but the victim would also be notified if the offender was anywhere near them. And unfortunately, we do not have that anymore. I know that the sheriff's office has implemented a portion of the GPS, but he has not been able to get the whole program up and going. Portion of it, yes, but not the whole thing.
Thank you. Next question, Ms. Barrero. Please describe the tools available for the public's use through your office and your plans to build on them.
The tools available
For the public's use.
for the public's use. Well, first of all, I'd like to reiterate that we need to invest in outside expertise. And by saying that, I did not say to get a whole new system. We need to work on the system that we've already paid for, that you've already paid for. And if doing that, we could also collect a portion of the $66 million in back collections that has not been collected. Now, these are things that we really need to work on. I know that the circuit clerk's office is currently working on that, but we still need, there's so much more to be done. And my ideas are to try and recoup some of that in office rather than having a third-party administrator, that we could actually set up some type of payment plan and get that money back sooner.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell?
Okay. Dealing with collections, first of all, it is not legal for the clerk to have collections. We receive receipts, that's true, but collections is in the purview of the state's attorney's office. They determine whether or not there's an outside collector or not. They determine whether they want to do it in-house or not. The responsibility of the circuit clerk is just very simple. We're to give the data to whoever they decide to collect, and then they go ahead and collect. So I have no control over the collection process once I turn the data over. Now, in terms of tools for the public, what we have is we have terminals in the in our lobbies so that people can access and use them and as they see fit. What's better is, though, if someone's struggling, they can go to the law library and get help from various different people there. Likewise, they've got 3 or 4 different stations where they can access it. So we try to make it as easy as possible. We also try to train so that people can do these things at home after they've got experience in the courtroom.
Excellent. Mr. Hartwell, next question. How do you see your role as a liaison to the public?
How do I see my role as a
Liaison.
liaison to the public?
Liaison.
Yeah, every day it's very important. The circuit clerk touches people who've been involved in the courts. You know, of course, our number one clients or customers are the judges and the bar, but touching the people is very important. People who are in court are not having, it's not their best days. Either they find themselves in trouble or they find themselves where they have to sue somebody to collect money. And we're very compassionate about that. And one of the things that we train our employees to make sure is they treat people with compassion, that they be professional as they work with these people. If they're upset, you need to understand they're upset because being in the court system isn't the best thing to do. And those are focuses we do in terms of looking at the public as they come into our office.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero? How do you see your role as liaison to the public?
Well, the circuit clerk's office, when you have to pay a bill or I mean, not a bill, but a fine or a fee, it can be very, very, very emotional. And that is why I suggested some of the collection being done in-house, which I know and realize the state's attorney's office is the last word on that. But that's how you build relationships with other with other elected officials so that you can all cooperate and collaborate for the public. Another thing would be the Freedom of Information Act. We need to use that as a vehicle for the public. Becoming more transparent and becoming more efficient with staff's time. These are all things that the public is looking forward to through the circuit office.
Thank you. Next question, Ms. Barrero.
Mm-hmm.
Please describe the manner in which you will demonstrate a commitment to transparency to your constituents.
Well, I'm going to go back to the freedom of information. When a person files for freedom of information, you have so many days, I believe actually it's 14, I could be wrong on that, for someone to respond. And it seems to be more efficient if we put it all online. So then you can look up what somebody's already asked for and have an answer before we can even send it out. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we have a Freedom of Information Act online, then the public can take a look at it and we look more transparent.
Mr. Hartwell?
Regarding FOIA, it's unlawful. We cannot accept a FOIA request because we're part of the judiciary. Bottom line, nothing more to do about that. However, if anyone wants information from my office, we gladly do it. It's not through a FOIA request. We tell them where they can find it online if it's that. If they need to have special reports done, we prepare that for them as well. If it's somebody who's fishing for information, we turn them down because that's not legal. We work with the chief judge to decide what information should go to the public in those cases. But any information in my office is readily available to the public.
Mr. Hartwell, we'll begin with you.
Except for impounded files, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Next question, Mr. Hartwell. What problems besides revenue shortfalls caused by COVID-19 have affected the circuit clerk's office?
Well, one of the really important challenges we faced is working with employees who have immune deficiencies as well as children at home. So what we've done is we've gone through a program where we can, at any time, up to 60% of our staff can actually work from home. At this point in time, it's not that high because they don't need to. But if an employee, and many of them do, they have children who are school age right now and they have to teach them at home, they're working from home. Now, of course, we're supervising and making sure, but that's an opportunity that they have. Likewise, we have some people who have, like I said, immune deficiencies. They can work at home as well. So we've gone an extra mile to provide this extra protection for the employees.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero?
Can you repeat it?
Sure. What problems besides revenue shortfalls caused by COVID-19 have affected the circuit clerk's office?
Well, in the beginning, they were very short on PPE. I know employees had to go out and purchase their own, and that was a big struggle. I'm sure that's been fixed now, but with Flex, one thing that's good from COVID is they've been able to use flex time, which then they do not need as much overtime. It also helps the employees that can work from home because they do not have a babysitter or, of course, school is e-learning now, and virtual courts. Virtual courts have really assisted in those so they don't have to take a day off of work, and it also has helped the employees in their flex time.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, why should your position continue to be elected rather than appointed?
Because it's a state statute that it is an elected position.
Okay. Mr. Hartwell?
I think it's fine to give the people the choice. Let individuals, taxpayers, decide the job, the qualities, the efficiency of the current clerk in this case, but if there's not an incumbent running, it's good for the public to make a decision based on the credentials and the ability to get the job done.
Thank you. The next several questions will help you perhaps go back and speak more in detail about things that you've already mentioned tonight. Mr. Hartwell, what is needed to improve the functioning of the circuit clerk's office?
Well, one of the things that is always in change is because we do get new employees. And doing training, especially as they're coming in, we're finding new ways to be more efficient with the time. For example, when I first took office in 2012, it was taking 2 years before a clerk could learn the basic materials just to get into the courtroom. And it's very, very complex, so I'm not putting that down. But we've instituted new training so that process is faster, so that some clerks are actually getting into the courtroom pretty close after a year. And that is one of the functions one of the things that we look to do is we want our employees to be most productive as possible. And that way, they can produce and do the things that they need to do.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, same question. What is needed to improve the functioning of the circuit clerk's office?
Well, they need a leader. They need somebody with administrative experience. They need someone that knows the importance with training staff, and how important the staff's time is. And those are all issues that I know that I have experience in and could assist the circuit clerk office with. Another thing is flex time. The employees should be able to utilize flex time, which would help with the budget and also would assist them in training possibly outside of the office.
Thank you. Ms. Barrero, please describe your priorities for the circuit clerk's office.
My priorities, time commitment, social equity program. State's Attorney's Office could assist us with some social equity challenges that all government offices have. We could assist folks with programs so that in order to pay back their debt, we could assist folks with programs, the court-assigned programs. We could have the in-house collection of certain fees. These are all things that are very important to me going forward. I know that being on the county board, I've listened to reports. That's all we've gotten is reports. Transparency, huge transparency. It's very hard to find anything regarding the circuit clerk's office online, other than a few budgets. The budgets are in the finance department. But other than that, transparency is very difficult.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, please describe your priorities for the circuit clerk's office.
Yeah, we've talked about many things, but something that's very, very important is cooperation, working with our judicial partners in order to get things done, and finding win-win situations. And in order to do that, experience really matters. As an attorney, I know what my judicial partners are doing and thinking. I've been there for going on 8 years now. And what we can do is we can offer suggestions to make our office better as well as the judicial partners. And that way, this cooperation is a win-win and improves both. Also, productivity is very important. I have an MBA. I have a Master's in Business degree. And because of that, I know how to manage. I know how to have people put in places where they're productive. We have training. The productivity of my office has been skyrocketing. We started with 125 employees, and now we're getting the same amount of work done, if not more, with just over 100.
Thank you. Mr. Hartwell, what do you think are the most important qualifications for the position of circuit clerk?
I think the most important qualifications are just what I mentioned. Number one is having a legal background. There's a lot of nuances that go on. There's 23 different case types alone to understand when documents are filed. There's many statutes that are being passed all the time that have changes that we have to be able to say, okay, that's going to affect our fees, or this is how we operate the court. Having that legal background is very, very useful in terms of working in the office and understanding what to do. The other thing is a master's in business administration, because this is a large organization. It's over 100 people, $9 million in revenue, $7 million in expenses. That's $25,000 a day. You have to have controls. You have to understand how to account for that. You have to understand and watch the ebbs and flows and be able to adjust quickly to what's going on. You also have to be able to take advantage of deals with vendors. So those are the two things I think are important.
Ms. Barrero?
Well, you do not need a legal background. You just need to be an administrator. You need to be able to go to work. You need to be able to answer a telephone. You need to be able to work with employees. The reason that the circuit clerk's office has done as well as it has is because of the employees. If they did not have good employees, the job wouldn't get done because there's no leader there. It doesn't really have to be there, though, because they are doing a great job. But you lead by example. You lead by showing up and showing your employees that you care about them, that you can do the job also. I could walk in there and pick up the phone and start working. You don't need an MBA for that. You don't need to be an attorney. You just need to know how to manage an office and how to work with people. Customer service.
Thank you. This will be our last question. Ms. Barrero, you'll be first. Is there anything else you would like to say to an undecided voter?
I would like to say that I have over 30 years' experience with the city of Aurora, Kane County. I worked for the county clerk's office, and I worked for a financial advisor. I've been on the county board 8 years. I'm familiar with budgets. I prepared them. I maintained them, and I presented them. So I think, and I feel, and I know that I can do a great job with this. I've watched this office deteriorate for 8 years. I've watched promises be made and not be kept. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't sit through judicial and public safety meetings and listen to reports and drop my jaw. I feel that I can do better, and I know I can do better.
Mr. Hartwell?
Yeah. For the last 8 years, every month I give my report, hardly a comment. And this reason is we're clerks. We're scorekeepers. We're there to do a job. The judges, the state's attorney, the public defender, those are all the sexy jobs that people like. We just keep the record and we do it and we've done it well. I'd love to be able to go to a counter and serve a customer, but I can't. It violates the union contract. That's called union work. It's for my union employees to do, not for management. So I'm limited in the things that I can do that is seen. But nevertheless, our experience, and I agree with one thing, it is I do have great employees. And I got great employees because I selected them. I have great employees because I've trained them. I've got great employees because I've allowed them to use their talents to be better. And that's what I'm proud of, my employees.
It's now time for closing statements. Ms. Ferrero?
Thank you. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum. Through the efforts of organizations like the League of Women Voters, voters are better informed. Forums provide the opportunity to discuss issues resulting in better government. As a lifelong resident of Kane County, I am vested in the well-being of the county. I have demonstrated this commitment through my community involvement for the past 30 years. As a Kane County board member, I have served as an advocate for important issues and have earned the respect of my colleagues. Before my time on the county board, I worked for the Kane clerk's office and the city of Aurora, and in the private sector for a financial advisor. I have experience in office management, customer service, administrative duties, use of technology, and working with people. I am looking forward to using my experience in a new role and to serve the residents of Kane County in a new capacity. I feel that I am well suited to serve as your next circuit clerk. I am committed to serving as a full-time circuit clerk and making that my priority in order to help move the office to a higher level of performance. I will bring new energy to the office. I have proven that I work well with others. The circuit clerk is accountable to the voters of Kane County. As circuit clerk, I will be transparent, innovative, and customer service driven. I am asking for your support to be the next circuit clerk of Kane County.
Mr. Hartwell.
Thank you. Everyone wants Kane County to be a better place. I do too, and that's why I'm seeking re-election. We want safe neighborhoods, fairness, and justice. The purpose of our judicial system is to do just that, to separate from society those who are dangerous, to resolve disputes between people, and to protect the rights of victims. For 35 years, I've dedicated myself to these lofty goals, professionally as an attorney and as the clerk of circuit court. I've also done it personally as a volunteer for many volunteer organizations. As circuit clerk, I've established dozens of excellent initiatives that have both improved the service and reduced the cost. I took the trust of the voters they put in me and provided excellent service and had cost efficiencies so that access to justice is more affordable to all. I ask that the voters consider my qualifications, that I am an attorney, that I have an MBA, I work full-time as a circuit clerk. I may not sit in the office, but just like the captain of a great ship doesn't always stand at the steering wheel, I am always thinking about how to make this office better. We would not have the efficiencies, we would not have these new programs, we would have not all these solutions if it weren't for the thoughtful process of getting those applied. And also, looking at the bottom line budget. If you don't make access to justice more efficient monetarily, that is justice denied. And we've done that by lowering the cost at our office. So I appreciate the time that the League of Women Voters have given us and the Chamber of Commerce as well. And I want to thank you.
Our time is up for this forum, and on behalf of everyone here and watching virtually, I would like to thank you for your participation in tonight's forum. I would also like to thank the Batavia Chamber and Batavia Public Access for their support in bringing this evening's forum to you. The League and Chamber appreciate your participation, whether you're a candidate or those who are viewing. The candidates have done their job and shown their commitment by being here to share their views tonight. Now, we as voters and viewers, it's time for us to continue to be informed, talk to our neighbors, and go vote. You have choices on how to vote November 3rd, for the November 3rd election, either by mail, at an early voting location, or at your polling place on Election Day. To register to vote, confirm your registration, find early polling locations, or request a vote by mail, visit kanecountyclerk.org/elections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll resume our forums at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Welcome to this evening's candidate forum for 16th Judicial Circuit of Kane County, sponsored by the Leagues of Central Kane County and Batavia Chamber of Commerce. My name is Barb Lymans, a member of the League of Women Voters of Wheaton, and your moderator for this evening. I do live in DuPage County, so I will not be voting for any of the candidates participating in the forums this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government and civic discourse. If there is a controversy, our interest is to bring balance and fairness to the discussion and ensure that all parties are heard. Providing forums is a major mission of the League of Women Voters, so citizens can become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. At this time, I would like to ask those here in attendance, please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you refrain from applauding or other ways demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. Questions for tonight's forums have been submitted in advance from various community groups and voters. Questions have been screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. They will each present a 2-minute introductory statement, then the order is to start alphabetically. Then submitted questions will be asked and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Candidates will be informed if more time will be given to certain questions. Members of the League will act as timers, and I will enforce the time limits. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. Closing statements will be 2 minutes. We'll start this forum by introducing the candidates for Judge for 16th Judicial Circuit, Elizabeth Flood and Brittany Pedersen. Ms. Flood, time for your opening statement.
Thank you. You have the decision of hiring a circuit court judge when you cast your vote this election. Judges have great power and authority over people's lives and make important decisions every day. When considering a candidate, you should look at that candidate's experience on the job. I have been an associate judge for 7 years and a circuit judge for 1 year. My opponent has no experience as a judge. You should look at an applicant's ratings for this job by an independent group, in this case, the Bar Association. I was rated qualified for this position by 97.87% of our peers, and I am one of the highest rated judges in Kane County in the areas of integrity, impartiality, legal ability, temperament, court management, and sensitivity to diversity. My opponent was rated qualified by only 50% of our peers. You should also consider a candidate's qualifications. I have been an attorney practicing in Kane County for 25 years. Before I became a judge, I worked with the state's attorney's office for 17 years. I have prosecuted and defended cases in state, federal, and appellate courts. In total, I have spent 10 years in criminal courtrooms, 10 years in civil, and 5 in family courtrooms. When considering a candidate, you should consider their references. When a circuit judge retired, the Illinois Supreme Court unanimously chose me for this position. I am also endorsed by many leaders in our community in both political parties. My opponent has no endorsements currently listed on her website. For a position of public trust such as this, you should consider a candidate's criminal history. I have no criminal history. My opponent has been arrested twice for DUI, once in 2003 and once in 2016. In both cases, she pled guilty to reckless driving, and she was just released from supervision on the second case in 2018. Based on experience, qualifications, and demonstrated ability, your choice is clear. Choose wisely.
Ms. Pedersen.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for the Central Kane County chapter for organizing this forum and inviting me. My name is Brittany Pedersen, and I'm running to be Kane County's next elected circuit court judge. I'm a mother, a lawyer, a businesswoman, and a community advocate. However, those 4 labels do not even scratch the surface as to my qualifications, abilities, and strengths to be your choice for your next judicial officer. I was born and raised in Elgin, Illinois. I'm the daughter of an African-American mother who was raised in Jim Crow-era South Carolina and an immigrant father from Denmark. I'm a single working mother to 2.5-year-old girl twins. While balancing responsibilities of home and work, I am the managing partner of a prominent law firm based in Aurora and Elgin. As a former Kane County public defender and as a private attorney, I have represented and fought for the residents of this county and all surrounding counties as they navigate through the life-altering cases in family court, civil court, and criminal court. I have represented their interests and fought to defend their constitutional and legal rights, and in many cases, their freedom. I deeply believe, and my legal practice is a testament to the premise that all people, regardless of race, economic status, gender, sexual orientation, or ability, should have equal access to the laws that govern and protect us. I've often been asked, why do I want to be a judge? And the answer is clear. I love this country and the constitutional rights and freedoms for which our democracy is built upon. I know our democracy has its flaws and its inequalities are often glaring. However, our democracy relies on our courts to be the mechanisms of change to uphold our rights and our laws. It is my goal and my aim to diligently work to achieve our true potential as a fair and equal just society for my children, your children, and for you. As a child, my father always told me that if you want to change the world, then you have to find out what you love and make that change from within that institution and not sit on the sideline. And that is what I intend to do.
Thank you. Ms. Flood, the first question is thus. In the area of hate crimes, what are some of the issues in balancing free speech rights against the need to control offensive activity?
Sure. So the Constitution upholds our right to free speech, and that is one of the foundations of our society, but it has limits. And we all recognize that at times when speech becomes violent or could incite violence, that is the limit on free speech. So hate speech is an outgrowth of the recognition that some speech is going to incite violence because of the nature of its impact on other people. Because of their race, because of their gender, because of other characteristics that other people may have in the past been prejudiced against, that certain speech is going to incite violence. That is the line at which hate speech becomes less about freedom of speech and becomes a crime.
Thank you. Ms. Pedersen, the same question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. In the area of hate crimes, what are some of the issues in balancing free speech rights against the need to control offensive activity?
Yes, thank you. Hate speech is absolutely uncalled for, and it is part of the problem when we look at our racial problems in this country and our racial inequalities. We have a country that is based on systematic racism, and we must fight to end all of the barriers and all of the paths to that institutionalized racism. Prosecuting against hate speech, speech that insinuates violence, speech that hurts others, and it is no point to it as far as our freedoms and our liberties to be able to speak, needs to be silenced. It needs to be prosecuted. And in those cases where these hate crimes are occurring, it is on the onus of our state's attorneys and our federal government to prosecute these crimes. It is a fine balance, and the law is clear about what the balance is here, but it is a fine balance on protecting our constitutional rights, but also protecting the people who have been disenfranchised in our society because of things like hate speech and hate crime.
Thank you. Ms. Pedersen, do you believe the composition of juries adequately and fairly reflects society at large? Why or why not? And if not, what can we do to change this?
It does not. I am a trial attorney. I have jury trials multiple times a year. And I can tell you that here in Kane County, it is very difficult for me to get members on a jury, not just on the 12-person jury, but in the panels of 50 to 75 people to pick from that are African American or Hispanic, that are younger compared to older. Our juries are supposed to be reflective of our population, from gender to age to race. The barriers of why that is a bit of the process of how jurors are selected. It's also because we do not, as a society, let our citizens know that being a juror is one of our biggest civic duties, and that when selected for juries, we need to show up to them as they have to sit in judgment of the accused. There does need to be changes in how we get those jurors onto our panels, because as I said, they aren't even reflected oftentimes in the panels to choose from.
Thank you. Ms. Flood? Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. I think our juries, when they are chosen in the courtroom, they're chosen to try to be fair to each particular case that is being heard in that courtroom on that particular day. So from courtroom to courtroom, you may not have full diversity. But when you look at the array of jurors that are called to the courthouse every day, because of our voter registration laws, they do represent a large swath of our community. Jury duty, though, is still a burden on people. They have to give up their lives. Many people have childcare. They may miss their work. And so the people who call to be excused or wish to be excused from jury service do tend to be younger and people who are of working age and have childcare. I'm not sure how to solve that problem, but I think as long as we're sending people jury notices and bringing them into the courtroom and then letting the system do its work, that we are doing a good job of trying to be representative in our courthouse.
Thank you. Next question. We'll begin with you, Ms. Flood. What criteria would you use for deciding whether to impose or affirm sentences outside of the standard ranges?
Sure. So there aren't necessarily standard ranges in Illinois. We do have sentencing ranges that are authorized. I'm not allowed to impose a sentence that is not authorized. But I often go out and give presentations to community members, and we talk about the fact that, say, for an aggravated DUI case, there's a sentence anywhere from probation up until extended term. When are you going to give a sentence of probation versus extended term? I gave that an aggravated DUI is when someone may be seriously injured or die. You can imagine somebody who has no criminal history, who just had a tragic life event, who's never had anything happen and has a horrible accident based on a split-second decision, versus someone who has had repeated offenses, has gone out after being warned several times and been through the system, and that person ends up being in an accident. So you consider life experience, you consider all the statutory aggravating and mitigating factors, criminal history, and any other factor that is presented to you as a judge when I'm making sentencing decisions.
Thank you. Ms. Pedersen.
Thank you. Again, in most cases, in most criminal cases, there's a wide range of allowable sentences that a judge can sentence a defendant to. Only some where there is absolutely incarceration is the minimum sentence. And as Judge Flood did say, we do need to look at each individual person and each individual circumstance in each individual case. Not just their background, but also not just their criminal background, but also where they're from. What are the reasons that they are in front of us? What are the reasons that possibly got that person to that scenario? But we also have to look at the victims if there are victims in the case, because the balance that we need to find here is justice when we're looking for sentences. Justice that not only protect the community, but also justice that the sentence actually fits the crime. And that balance and that understanding is something that I fight for and do every day. And that is what my job entails, and will do so on the bench as well.
Thank you. Next question. Ms. Pedersen, what factors are considered in granting and setting bail amounts for defendants? What do you believe is the primary consideration?
I believe that the primary consideration is criminal history and the crime that the accused is standing in front of the judge at the time. Now, Kane County has enacted some bail reform in recent time, and they look into other factors, for example, somebody's failure to appear in prior court dates. There are factors into whether or not their criminal history comes into play. But far too often what's not looked at is somebody's job at the time, whether or not they're employed at the time, whether or not their criminal history is recent or old, whether or not they have means to be able to post bond, which is not always known at a bond hearing within 24 hours of an arrest. These factors are not taken into play often at the initial bail hearing and are often taken into play at a bond reduction hearing that happens normally about 2 weeks later when people's bonds are reduced from the original bond amount. So we still have a ways to go with bail reform at the bond call.
Thank you. Ms. Flood?
So I've been a judge covering bond call for the last 8 years, and before that I worked in it as a prosecutor. The two major factors when considering whether to impose bond on a defendant is protecting the public and ensuring that person's appearance in court. Those are the only two things that we are supposed to consider as a judge. In order to do that, you do look at several factors. You look at their ties to the community, you look at their job status, you look at their prior history of whether they appeared in court or what types of cases they've been charged with, what their sentences have been. And I'm not sure when Ms. Pedersen was last in bond call, but part of bond reform is that we do actually get a report on each and every defendant from court services now, giving us information on all of those factors before we set bond on people. So we know not only what they're charged with, the facts of the case that they're charged with, but we also have an idea of their criminal history, their current status. We have public defenders there who tell us about their job history, their ties to the community, and their family. And the judges consider all of those factors before deciding whether to keep someone in jail where they might lose their job or to allow them to be free while still considering protecting the public.
Thank you. Ms. Flood? Violent crime, particularly youth violence, is perceived to be at a crisis level by many experts today. What, if any, do you believe is the appropriate role for the judiciary in addressing this perceived crisis?
Sure. So we do a couple different things with the judiciary on juvenile crime. One of the first things that we do is we actually try to go out in the community to prevent juvenile crime. Myself and several other judges speak at middle schools on internet safety and the responsible use of social media to try to prevent kids from getting charged with things like sexting and sending child pornography by sending out naked pictures of themselves or friends. We also go to the high schools and talk to them about drinking and driving and drug use to try to prevent them from getting in trouble with the law. Once the juveniles are in our system, we try to make sure that we are treating them as individuals, sending them to diversion before they are sent to jail or keeping them incarcerated, trying to make sure that they get treatment, trying to make sure that we're putting them on a path so that they're going to lead productive lives instead of ending back in the court system. And we have judges that are trained to watch these cases, to know what services are available, and to try to treat these kids as individuals in the system.
Ms. Pedersen?
Thank you. Juvenile justice reform has come a long way. And currently, as we sit here today, juvenile justice is very much so about rehabilitation and addressing the issues that a juvenile is when and if they get into the courts. Kane County has done a very good job of deferring children before they have a petition for adjudication filed against them to get services or other sort of means instead of having to have them in the system. I was a public defender assigned to the Kane County, to the juvenile department for a period of time while I was there, and the numbers of clients that I had then are much, much higher than they are right now. As far as for the judiciary, it is still, that is a courtroom that is about rehabilitation. And judges have to take the time to get to know each and every one of those children, especially the children that are sitting in our juvenile jail in Kane County here, and know the circumstances as to why they're there, and work with the collaborative groups in the community, court services, and their family. Because these juveniles themselves don't need their help, their entire family usually needs the help of the court to address the issues that brought that child into the court system.
Thank you. Ms. Pedersen, what injustices have you witnessed in or outside the courtroom, and what was your response to those events?
As an African American and as a woman, there's been often times where I've walked into a courtroom where I'm not well known, and I have been told by courtroom staff to sit down in the gallery with the other defendants or the other people in the case, that even though I have walked in a suit, and I have walked in prepared with court files to sit with everyone else. An assumption has been made that I am not an attorney. I have faced that. And when I talk about access and comfort level in the court system, as a woman and a minority attorney where there's very few minority attorneys, I know what it's like, even if it's like that for me, it must be as discerning for some of these individuals who come into the courtroom and don't know how to handle themselves. We have to make sure that our courtrooms feel accessible and safe to all as they seek the protections of the laws that govern us.
Ms. Flood, same question.
Probably some of the worst injustices I saw during my career as an attorney were cases of child abuse, which I worked on for 2 years at the Kane County Child Advocacy Center. Our court system is still very difficult because you have to prove cases beyond a reasonable doubt. And as a prosecutor, I quickly learned that when you only have a child as a witness who has suffered a terrible injustice of sexual assault and something that's very difficult to talk about, it is a very difficult case to prove. So I saw many cases of injustice in the Kane County Child Advocacy Center, and I learned that you have to do the best you can with each and every case to bring justice for that victim in that situation. As a judge, I am lucky because I have authority over the courtroom, so I can figure out what I believe justice is. In my courtroom, probably the only time I felt like I saw injustice was I did see in traffic court one sheriff's deputy that I felt was racially profiling, just brought in tickets all the time for people late at night on subjective tickets that seemed like they were all people of color. And I did call his supervisor and reported that.
Thank you. Ms. Flood, please describe one instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma and how you resolved it.
Sure. So when first starting as a judge, I was a prosecutor before I was a judge. As a prosecutor, I obviously felt very strongly about prosecuting cases of child abuse. As a judge, I had a case come before me. The prosecutor, it was a case of statutory rape. So it was a 19-year-old charged with having sex with a 15-year-old. When the state had rested their case, they had not put in any testimony or evidence about the age of the victim or whether the defendant knew the age of the victim. That was a very hard case because I had to dismiss that case out because as a judge, I am required to follow the law and to hold the state to their burden of proof. Even though I felt that I disagreed with the decision, that is my job as a judge. So that was a decision that felt like an ethical dilemma to me. But when I thought about what my role really is, which is to follow the law, not to make the law, it became more clear.
Ms. Pedersen,
Yes.
same question.
I was once in a situation where I'd seen a colleague grossly unprepared for trial. And it was a trial where the client's life was on the line, their freedom was on the line. And I knew that this person was unprepared, that they were not ready to proceed with this trial. And I do believe strongly that everybody should be afforded quality and good representation. And I was faced with the decision to say something, and who do I say it to? Do I say it to the client, to the defendant? Do I say it to the judge? Do I say it to that person's boss? Who is it that I should report this to? Or do I even report this to the governing board of the ARDC? And I remember being very torn in that decision, but ultimately rising above and realizing that in my convictions, that client's and that person's life was more important than the relationship that I had with the person that I knew was another attorney. And I did report that incident right then and there to the judge as well as to that person's boss. And thankfully, the trial was able to be continued.
Thank you. Ms. Pedersen, are there any specific types of cases in which you would find it necessary to disqualify yourself?
No, but I will say that understanding our own biases, and as a judge, we are to recuse ourselves when we believe that there's any appearance of impropriety or a bias. And it is important as a person, but even more important as a judge, to understand what might be your biases, be they implicit bias or be them other biases. And right now, that there is nothing that I believe that I cannot be in front of at all. But if a case was to come in front of me and I had that doubt, or I believe that that bias may exist, at that point, I think that the proper thing would be to recuse, because this is not about me and my case, because it's not my case. It is that defendant, it is that litigant's case. And they will be assigned another fine judge or another judge in the county. But as we sit here today, there's not any sort of case that I feel uncomfortable or in a position where I would be biased.
Ms. Flood?
There's not a subject matter that I haven't dealt with as an attorney or as a judge that I have felt that I could not hear. I'm very lucky that I have not had personal tragedy or personal experience with some of the types of cases that we hear in court. I will say that as a judge, I've currently been sitting in family court. I've been in divorce court the last 5 years. There have been just a few cases where I've recused myself based on the litigants. If somebody comes before you that you even know peripherally, if it's a parent at your kid's school, if it's a neighbor or a friend or someone that you don't feel that you would be able to look them in the eye when making a decision on their kids or their finances, or you feel like you would think about how they would feel about it, in those cases, I have recused myself.
Ms. Flood, how do you deal with difficult people, including peers, lawyers, clients, or litigants?
So like I said, I've been in divorce court the last 5 years, so I have a lot of training in this. It was interesting when I was applying to be an associate judge. There were not a lot of female judges, even at the time that I was applying. And one of the questions I was asked was whether I would be able to handle a courtroom. I expect that I was asked that question in part because of the way I look, because I'm a fairly petite, at that time, younger female. I don't think a lot of the males were asked that. But I have found that it's fairly simple by actually, frankly, using some of the same techniques that I use on my children and perhaps should use better at home. I basically just tell people to remember where they are, that they're in a courtroom. If I have to, I give them a timeout and tell them they need to sit down. I tell them if they can't control their behavior that we'll have to continue the case to another day. But what I've truly found is that so many people in front of me are emotional and upset, and they take it out on the system or on me when it's really about something else. And looking at them in the eye, listening to them, and letting them know that you're hearing them and treating them with respect really goes a long way into controlling a lot of difficult personalities.
Ms. Pedersen?
If somebody is in the court system, there's only two reasons why they're there that's a positive thing, and that's for marriages and adoptions. Everything else is because something is going wrong in somebody's life. We have a lot of people who are suffering from addictions and from mental illness and are going through hardships. I represent those people. I know how hard it is for them. And I know that most people just want to be heard. They just want to know, to know that somebody is hearing their side of the story. As a judge, I will give people that forum when I can and when appropriate. You will be heard in my courtroom. Your side of the story will come out to light in the appropriate setting when it's supposed to be in the appropriate setting when it should. But we do have to have control over our courtrooms. And sometimes, and I've had those clients who are just very unruly and who cannot be settled down. I've had clients severely in a schizophrenic state. And at those times, for the safety of that client and for the safety of the courtroom, sometimes those people need to be removed. But they will come back, and they will get their time when they're able to at the right time.
Thank you. Ms. Pedersen, how would you deal with a pro se party appearing in your court?
I think that it is very important that, again, people have access to the courts. And sometimes having access to the courts does not mean that you have the funds to have access to an attorney. It's only in criminal courts that you are abided the right to have an attorney, and a free attorney would be appointed to you or a public defender. But in family law court and in civil court, where you might be dealing with debt collectors or trying to deal with a car accident or, of course, the custody of your child, you may not have the means to have an attorney. I think it is imperative of judges to inform pro se defendants about the resources that are available to them in the community. You're not allowed to give legal advice, but you are allowed to point them in directions where they can get help or where they could have fee waivers for filing fees and things of that sort. I think that pro se defendants should be apprised of the law and understand the rules and regulations in the court, the local court rules, as well as, as best you can, the rules in that courtroom. And it is the judge's responsibility to tell them that at the start of a hearing.
Ms. Flood?
I deal with pro se litigants each and every day, and I have been for the last 8 years. And I started in traffic court, and almost everyone represents themselves in traffic court. I think the most important thing that a judge can do for someone who's representing themselves is to make sure that they just understand where they're at in the system, what the procedure is, and to help them through it as best as we can. Again, we can't give legal advice, but we can ask people questions. We can let them know what the next step is. We can tell them where to find the forms. I can send them to the law library. I can give them information about low-cost legal services. And I have and do almost every week write up judgments for pro se litigants when they really have an agreement and they don't have no idea how to write it up. I will walk them through it. I will write it down for them, and I will make sure that their case is concluded in a timely manner so that they can get on with their life.
Thank you. Ms. Flood, what are the issues regarding alternative sentences for nonviolent offenders?
What are the what?
What are the issues regarding alternative sentences for nonviolent offenders?
Sure. So the issues for the court system are how to get someone through the system in a way that they're not going to return. So one of the ways that the legal system has grown and learned and probably become more enlightened, even since I started in it, was realizing that locking people up and sending them to prison is not the best way to make sure that they're not going to commit a crime again. So the judicial system has started expanding into treatment courts, substance abuse courts, mental health courts, veterans courts, to try to make sure that people get the services they need. Some of the issues that are surrounding that are just the fact that it takes a lot more time and resources in the court system to hold someone's hand through treatment, a lot more court dates, a lot more personnel involved, not necessarily more taxpayer dollar, but just more time and attention from the court system rather than just sentencing someone and sending them to DOC. But luckily, we have learned that that is a better process and keeps people from coming back in front of us.
Ms. Pedersen?
When we see nonviolent offenders coming into the court system over and over again, it is absolutely because there's probably something that needs to be identified. And figuring that out is difficult. We have a Kane County Diagnostic Center that is available to us where we can order evaluations to be done on people to try to get to the root issue of what is wrong so that we can possibly get them into the treatment centers or into the treatment courts, the treatment centers, or the individual counseling, or whatever is needed to address the issue at hand. But this is difficult. This is, again, difficult to do, and it's difficult to have people do. And that's what the issues really become, is how do we deal with these people that would have to go through many, many steps to get to either into a treatment court or to successfully complete an intensive probation. People who are removed from transportation, people who are removed from having the funds. When we do order court-ordered treatment or we do order drug alcohol treatment to be done in the community to pay for it. Basically, cost and accessibility are the two biggest issues.
Thank you. Ms. Pedersen, do you think the court system is working, or do you believe the civil or criminal justice system is breaking down?
As I started with saying, I believe that our court system is imperative and detrimental to our democracy. It is flawed, and it always has work to do. It is a system that's based on humans, and humans are flawed. And because of that, our system is flawed. But there can be work to be done that can create diversity into the system, that can create accessibility into the system, and greater understanding into the judicial system. But we have to have members in our courts who reflect our community and reflect the values of our society, and not just members in our courts who come from the same line of individuals, the same value system of the individuals that have been there for the last 20 and 30 years, but in order to actually work together and have balance in our court system, we need balance for the officers in our court system.
Ms. Flood?
I think I 100% disagree. Our judicial system is in our third branch of government. It's separate and independent from the other two branches. I have seen throughout my entire career, and I see when I go to work every day, hardworking, dedicated, smart people who work every single day to serve justice on behalf of the people in front of them. The court system does not promote any particular political view. The people are in the court system to be fair and impartial and just. And the fact that it is a human system is one of the greatest benefits, because human beings pay attention to the human beings in front of them and are able to treat them as individuals. So even though our system of laws and decisions grows, it is based on rational thought. It is based on the collective minds of decades and generations of people studying the law and writing our laws. It works because of people who are willing to study that, translate it, and apply it to the individual human beings in front of them every day.
Okay. Ms. Flood, please describe your most difficult case.
So as an attorney, my most difficult cases were the child abuse cases that I discussed earlier. As a judge, I think my most difficult cases have been some of the divorce cases that I've been involved in for the same reason. Every time you're deciding how someone will spend time with their children, whether you're going to restrict parenting time because of drug or alcohol use or mental health, how you're going to allocate someone's finances, going line by line through credit card statements, trying to figure out where the money is going, those are some of my most difficult cases. The ones that I bring home with me, the ones that I think about when I'm running on the running path or swimming laps, are the ones where I'm dealing with kids who are in crisis. I have 400 cases at a time in divorce court. I've had thousands of cases, but the ones in which there's a child in crisis where the system is doing its best to try to help the parents, those are the most difficult cases.
Ms. Patterson, what is your most difficult case?
The most difficult cases are the cases where I truly believe that my client is innocent, where I know that that's not my judgment and it's the judgment of a judge or jury, and where that client is then found guilty, because that does happen. Those cases are very difficult, and the burden when you have cases like that as a defense attorney is a heavy one, and the fight is a hard one. The other most difficult cases I have are when we have cases that have mandatory minimum incarceration periods for nonviolent offenses and non-gun offenses. Cases where, for example, driving on a license revoked on a third or fourth, fifth offense, and a person has to serve 6 months in jail because they've been trying to get to and from work to feed their family and their children. Knowing that my hands are tied, and they would be also tied as a judge because the legislature has decided that those are mandatory minimums, those are some of the hardest cases.
Ms. Patterson, what are the major influences in your life and why?
My parents are one of the major influences in my life. They have instilled in me to serve my community, and they've instilled in me to be the best that I can be. They've come from very far, humble roots, both of them, and have achieved amazing feats in the odds of great adversity. My new children are now my motivating factor. I am raising them here in Kane County, the same county that I was born and raised in. And I'm excited and I'm proud to do that. But I want to raise them in a county and in a country and in a society where they are not going to be judged based on the color of their skin or their gender, which I am fearful of, as it still does exist. I want them to know that there are positions for them on the circuit court bench, in the state's attorney's office, and in other places where right now we don't see many, if any, Black women.
Ms. Flood, what are the major influences in your life and why?
Sure. I will also say my parents were huge influences on my lives. I had a dad who was an accountant, and he was very exacting, and he taught us in many ways, do what you say and say what you do. He was the dad that would ask us, when are you going to be home tonight, instead of giving us a curfew. But if we didn't get home, and we did not have free reign, but if we didn't get home when we said, then there was consequences to follow. My parents taught me that I was no better or worse than anyone else in the world, which I think was a valuable lesson to learn. My parents taught me about hard work as a teacher and as an accountant. I put myself through law school. I've worked every single day since I was 16. And I am no stranger to hard work when I watch them go through their lives. My mom taught me a sense of community service, and that as a woman, I could do anything. As I said, when I was coming up through the system, some of my other mentors were the other female judges, of which there have only been 4 other female circuit judges. I know all of them. They are now colleagues of mine, which I am proud to say, and they've all been a great influence and example in my life.
Will be the last question. Ms. Flood, what were the most important cases you had as a lawyer, and why did you take the position you did in those cases?
So I think that this goes back to why I became a lawyer in the first place. I became a lawyer in the first place in order to serve the public. When I was in law school, I didn't go in order to try to be a private attorney and make money. I knew that what influenced me and what motivated me was going out and helping other people. With that, you could choose which type of public service to work, and I chose the prosecutor's office. The reason I chose the prosecutor's office is because at the prosecutor's office, you have the ability to decide the direction of the case. You decide whether charges are filed, what charges are filed, whether a plea agreement is offered, what type of sentence is recommended, and ultimately whether to try the case. I liked the fact that at the state's attorney's office, I was always given freedom to use my discretion and determine what I felt was the right result for a case. I was not paid to say what someone else wanted me to say. I could determine what I thought was best for our community. That always gave me a sense of meaning, and it still does as a judge. As a judge, it is still my job to go into a courtroom every day and do what's best for our community, and that's what motivates me.
Ms. Pedersen, what were the most important cases you have as a lawyer, and why did you take the position you did in those cases?
I know this will probably sound cliche, but every single case that I have is important because they're not actually my cases. They are my clients' cases. I have chosen the path my entire career to represent people, not governmental entities and not governmental bodies, but actual people navigating through the court system. These are their cases. This is their life. These are their child support cases, their custody cases, their criminal cases. And every single time I decide to represent them, I represent their legal interests. Not only do I represent their legal interests in criminal court, I am there to defend them, to uphold their constitutional rights, to make sure that every single person, from the police officer who had contact with them to the state's attorney who was prosecuting them, is abiding by the laws of the United States and the state of Illinois. And that is, so every single one.
It is now time for closing statements. Ms. Flood, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
As I said before, I am Judge Elizabeth Flood. I grew up here in Elgin. I got a degree in finance from the University of Illinois, and I put myself through law school at the University of Illinois and graduated with honors. As I just stated, I decided to go to law school to go into public service for my community, and I have done that for 25 years. After law school, my husband Steve and I chose to come back here to raise our family. I first worked in the Kane County State's Attorney's Office in every criminal courtroom, including 2 years prosecuting serious child sex abuse cases. I then moved to the Civil Division where I defended cases in state, federal, and appellate courts. When I applied to be a judge, I applied several times over 5 years and was appointed to the bench as an associate judge by the circuit judges in 2013. Besides being a mother, being a member of the judiciary here has been the highest honor of my life, and I work hard at it every day. I have now served in criminal, civil, and family courtrooms, and I have become one of the highest-rated judges in every category in Kane County. When a circuit judge retired last year, the Illinois Supreme Court could have appointed anyone to fill this position, and they chose me. I am especially proud because I am only the 4th woman to ever be appointed by the Supreme Court to be a circuit judge in Kane County. Based on my qualifications, experience, and dedication, I ask for your vote.
Ms. Pedersen, your closing statement.
Thank you. This is an exciting election year for residents of Kane County. It is the first time in a very long time that the voters are going to be given a choice of 2 candidates in almost every single election, from the White House to the courthouse. And I encourage all voters to not take that choice lightly and to absolutely exercise your right to vote. In Illinois, we have the privilege of electing judges, and those elected judges should be representative of the community at large that they sit in. We must pick judges that share our core values, judges that have diversity in legal and life experiences, judges that would act as you would act if you were in that position. It is time to place judges on our circuit court bench who are not cherry-picked by the Supreme Court justices and are part of the same inequitable appointment process. I am that candidate, and I will be that judge. I am an accomplished attorney with a diverse wealth of legal knowledge and experience. That experience is dealing with the people who have been in these court systems. And with that comes understanding and awareness that I will bring every single day to the bench for the very serious reasons, for the reasons that people are in front of me in that courtroom. That legal experience is encompassed by life experiences. Life experiences that have had me travel around the world, life experiences that have had me working since a very young age and working through school, including undergrad and law school. Life experiences that have had me had many different jobs before my legal career. Life experiences where I have stumbled in life and gotten myself back up, dusted it myself off, and learned from them. I will apply the law as interpreted through the precedents to each and every person who individually appears before me. My name is Brittany Michelle Pedersen, and I am honored to have your support and your vote during this 2020 election.
Thank you. Our time for this forum is up. On behalf of everyone here and watching virtually, I would like to thank you both for your participation in tonight's forum. I would also like to thank the Batavia Chamber and Batavia Public Access for their support in bringing this evening's forums to you at home. You have many choices on how to vote for the November 3rd election, either by mail, at an early voting location, at your polling place on Election Day. To register to vote, confirm your registration, find early voting locations, or request a ballot by mail, please visit kanecountyclerk.org/elections. And please join us at 8 o'clock for the Kane County Board Chair Forum between Carolyn Pirog and David Rickard. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to this evening's candidate forum for Kane County Board Chair, sponsored by the Leagues of Central Kane County and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. My name is Barb Lymans, a member of the League of Women Voters of Wheaton, and your moderator for this evening. I do live in DuPage County, so I will not be voting for either candidate participating in the forum this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League is not affiliated with any political party. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government and civic discourse. If there is a controversy, our interest is to bring balance and fairness to the discussion and ensure that all parties are heard. Providing forums is a major mission of the League of Women Voters, so citizens can become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with candidates running for office. At this time, I would ask those here in the audience to please turn off their cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. Questions for tonight's forum have been submitted in advance from various community groups and voters. Questions have been screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to the forum. They will each present a 2-minute introductory statement. The order to start is alphabetical. Then submitted questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Candidates will be informed if more time will be given to certain questions. Members of the League will act as timers, and I will enforce the time limits. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. Closing statements will be 2 minutes. So I would like to welcome Corinne Pirog and David Rickert, candidates for the Kane County Board. Ms. Pirog, would you please give your opening statement?
Absolutely. Thank you to the Batavia Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, and the City of Batavia for hosting this forum, and to the audience who decided that watching this forum is more important than seeing the opening game of the football season. My name is Corinne Pirog, and I am looking to become Kane County's next board chair. A leader helps to define the moment. The collision of an economic downturn and related income inequality, a painful cry of racial justice, combined with a healthcare crisis, governing Kane County in the age of COVID-19 will present issues and challenges the likes of which we may have never faced. How can we make governmental functional, responsible, accountable, and transparent when faced with these multiple intermingling crises? My resume of working within higher education and managing my own consulting business, where my clients have given me the opportunity to establish healthcare programs recognized by the United Nations or grow a charitable foundation, have given me and led me to this opportunity of being Kane County's next board chair. From my volunteer efforts of serving on the boards of the United Way, the St. Charles Housing Commission, and now as vice chair of a senior organization that funds 8 of our collar counties, along with 2 terms of service on the St. Charles Board of Education, has provided me with the context of which to govern. I will not have all of the answers. A leader never has all of the answers. But a leader needs to bring out the best in people. During these difficult times, we need to listen to each other, guide each other, and respect each other. I understand that one of the major opportunities of this position is the development and supervision of the county's budget. The life and the people represented in that budget are simply not numbers, but must reflect the inherent values of the county.
Thank you. Mr. Rickert?
First of all, I'd also like to thank the Batavia League of Women Voters and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. It's a great opportunity to get out, especially when we're very restricted to meet people, to have a forum with which to discuss our ideas and put forth ideas and opinions for voters. A successful chairman should have extensive knowledge of county operations, strong working relationships with key board members, department heads, and a thorough knowledge of employee management, budgeting, and strategic planning. As a certified public accountant, I have successfully served as the county treasurer for the past 21 years. I have a bachelor's degree in finance from Northern Illinois University. I have a master's degree in accounting from Roosevelt University, and I have a proven track record of accomplishment, a solid reputation for working constructively with staff, board members, department heads, and elected officials. I've also attended approximately 1,200 board meetings and subcommittee meetings in my tenure in career as treasurer. In addition to this, I've also authored over 80 resolutions passed by the county board. We all realize that Kane County is dealing with the consequences of a global pandemic. Many hours have been spent by county staff in maintaining county operations, safeguarding the public, and coordinating relief efforts with first responders, emergency management, the health department. The county also faces a $14.1 million budget deficit due to revenue shortfalls and additional expenditures related to COVID-19. Because of these unique challenges facing the county and with the support of the voters, I feel I'm uniquely qualified to be the next county chair.
Thank you. For your first question, Ms. Pirag, if elected Kane County Board Chair, what are your top priorities and how will you accomplish those?
My top priorities are, first of all, getting the politics out of Kane's County's budget. For far too long, particularly in the last 8 years, politics has been used as a weapon to guide the budget until it has led now to a budget of austerity. By hiring a county manager, we will take the pressure off of that, neither being a Republican budget nor a Democratic budget, but a budget that is professionally managed and stewarded so that as county board chair, I can go out and be a strong advocate for Kane County.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
If elected County Board Chair, what are your top priorities and how will you accomplish those?
Well, twofold. We have two main issues facing the county. One, I've already mentioned in my opening statement, the $14.1 million budget deficit. It's going to take a lot of work and cooperation, working with the department heads and elected officials to try to find an efficient way to meet our statutory obligations and still provide all the services that Kane County citizens deserve and respect. The other thing I think we need to focus on, and it's what I would call the elephant in the room, is we are currently going through a global pandemic. A lot of our time, energy, and effort and resources are going to assist with dealing with that issue. I've worked with the prior committee set up to deal with COVID-19. I'm currently working with the CAC committee to provide finance and logistical support to the board with those decisions. So I hope to continue that role in an expanded setting as chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Reichert, discuss transparency and accessibility as it relates to the Kane County Board Chair, and how will you ensure these things occur if elected?
Well, I think that's a great question. Kane County, in my tenure, has spent a lot of time and effort making sure we provide transparency to the public. If you go out to our website, in fact, this year my office has updated our website. We have, for probably the last 10 years, provided information related to property tax information, payment, and it also allows for free access to printing tax bills. We also, if you look at Kane County's website now, there's a wealth of information. If any criticism, we have to better organize and manage that to make it easier to navigate all the information we have available to the public. But Kane County has gotten high marks for transparency and putting information out. I believe the public has a right to know what we do, how we spend their money, and how we assist them with services for our needs and for the public. So I think that's a laudable goal and something we should continue.
Ms. Pirag, could you please discuss transparency and accessibility as it relates to the Kane County Board Chair and how you will ensure these things occur if elected?
My opponent mentioned that he served on 2 task forces for COVID-19. First task force that he served on was disbanded by the county board, also called to task by the state's attorney because that task force broke the Open Meetings Act by having secret meetings behind closed doors. That is not a way to steward $93 million. Giving the opportunity for the new CARE Act committee to do a double step to make sure that the money is well stewarded and properly spent. They wasted 3 months by having a closed-door meeting. Beyond that, taking a look at Kane County's website, right now the meetings are indeed recorded, but it may take several weeks for the meetings to be broadcast to the audience, to the members of the community, not giving us the fair opportunity to properly take a look at what is happening in the county because these things are not being broadcast to us.
Thank you. The next question shifts to environmental concerns. Ms. Pirag, what more needs to be done to respond to environmental concerns for water and climate change within Kane County?
We are facing a crisis that will ultimately change the very face of the world. Right now, the World Health Organization says climate change is one of the #1 issues facing our health, and it also faces a great deal on racial inequality. Simply, Kane County has not been proactive in making sure that its resources are properly stewarded. They have a brand new building going up that was celebrated yesterday at a groundbreaking ceremony. That brand new building in the government center has no solar panels. Even though I asked about solar panels last year, going to meetings about that building, no solar panels were installed. And in the 2040 report, it clearly indicates that the western part of Kane County is going to be compromised by 2060 due to the drying up of the aquifers. That has been put on the back burner and no one has talked about it, even though wells in Campton Hills right now are dried.
Mr. Rickard?
Kane County is unique in that the county board members are also forest preserve commissioners. This relationship ensures that policy of each complement one another. This is also why it's critical to elect a county board chairman who places a priority on environmental issues. I have a proven track record of supporting farmland preservation, preserving open space, and water conservation. This is why I'm endorsed by Forest Preserve President Michael Kenyon. Also, as county treasurer, I helped bring the Kane Energy Efficiency Program, KEEP, to Kane County. We are one of the first counties in the state of Illinois to adopt this innovative financing tool that provides low-cost, long-term funding for energy efficiency, renewable energy, and water conservation projects for our citizens. Finally, I believe we have a moral duty and an obligation to preserve and protect our natural resources for our children and for future generations.
Mr. Rickard, next question for you. What is your opinion on the impact of wetlands in Kane County? Should the wetland acres be increased?
I think what we have to do is we have to look at our land use. Traditionally, what the county's done, both in the 2020 plan and the 2040 plan, is the county's divided up into 3 sectors. You have the urban corridor, which are all the river towns, including Aurora and Elgin, all the way up to Algonquin. You have the suburban area to include Campton, Gilbert's, Rutland, and Sugar Grove. And then you have the rural areas outlined by areas like Hampshire, Big Rock, Pingree Grove. I think there's a great need to protect and preserve these natural resources, like I said, for future generations. They not only provide water mitigation and help prevent flooding, but they're an integral part of protecting wildlife, other natural resources, and are a great addition in value of life and quality of life in our county for our citizens. A lot of people come out from Chicago and move to Kane County specifically because of the natural resources we have. One of the great resources my family and I both use is the bike paths, so we thoroughly enjoy using these trails.
Ms. Pirag, what is your opinion on the impact of wetlands in Kane County? Should the wetland acres be increased?
Yes. The wetlands act as a natural aquifer, a sponge that soaks up the water and purifies the water as it's going down into our aquifers. It also provides a habitat for wildlife. It provides an ecosystem that protects our crops and protects our nature. The aquifers, the drying up the aquifers are primarily caused because of runoff that happens onto the streets directly into the river. And when you have wetlands, the water can trickle down. Now, it'll take over 100 years for that water to get down into the aquifers, but it can only take maybe 5 years to dry them up. So we desperately need to keep the wetlands and increase those and preserve those for the future growth of Kane County and its economic prowess and opportunity.
Thank you. Next question for you, Ms. Pirag. What would you do to advance racial justice within the Kane County government system for both employees and residents?
I've done a lot of research with this, especially in light of Black Lives Matter. On May 31st, I attended a Black Lives Matter rally in Elgin. The passion was hot, you could feel it, and soon it wandered into downtown Aurora. And peaceful demonstration turned into something that should have never happened. But I also attended one here in Batavia where I saw approximately 600 young people gathering together to define what Black Lives Matter means to them. White people, black people, all people together. And then I attended an event in St. Charles where I laid down on the ground for 8 minutes, feeling what George Floyd felt. These are issues that are systemic here. They're systemic all over our country, and Kane County has done a poor job of reaching out to diverse communities.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard?
Thank you. Currently, I serve as county treasurer. We collect $1.3 billion in property tax collection annually. The distributions could add up, and we distribute to 600 taxing districts. The work in my office is highly complex and requires highly skilled, trained people. In my office, and I have a small office of 9 employees. 78% of my staff are female. 56% of my staff are minorities. They're there based on their qualifications and ability to do the job, not based on any special program or quota. Good employees can be found in all genders and all colors. I firmly believe we should work with and promote people that have the ability, and people should be given a chance. And I applaud efforts to reach out and involve all people and citizens of Kane County in the effort to not only serve in government, but to realize the full potential they have as human beings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, what is your philosophy about putting together a task force that represents the diversity of Kane County?
Well, that's really close to the answer I just gave, but like I said, I believe we need to make every effort to give assistance to all people within our county and an equal chance and opportunity to serve not only in government, but in education and in other areas of service in our community. Like I said, we've been very proactive in my office, and I believe the county has been very proactive in making sure we provide that education and assistance, and we work with the community, and perhaps more could be done to do that. And I'm willing to listen and work with people in regards to that issue.
Ms. Pirag, what is your philosophy about putting together a task force that represents the diversity of Kane County?
Elected in January, that's going to be one of my first initiatives, to put together such a task force. The task force needs to be to evaluate what Kane County is doing to support diverse populations through housing and job opportunities. The other thing that Kane County has not done, which I'm going to initiate, is to have a set-aside program where 20% of any contracts that go out for Kane County are set aside for businesses supporting minority, women, veteran, and people with disabilities. This will ensure that small business development can grow sustainably and to be able to support the economic growth of our communities.
The time limit for this question will be 2 minutes. Because it's a rather extensive question, it will require an extensive answer. How would you describe the leadership duties in the office of the Kane County Board Chair? How will your experience enhance this leadership role? This question is for you, Ms. Pirag.
Kane County Board Chair is an advocate, first of all, for the county. It works directly with the 24 members of the board who actually take the vote and decide the opportunities presented to the county. The chair can act as a guide, as a leader, as a thought provoker, as an advocate for their decision-making, but it also represents, she represents, the communities at hand. The chair does not sit behind the table, behind the dais, and lead. The chair goes out to the community and listens to their concerns, brings back issues, desires, needs, and wants to the board so that they too can think about what needs to be done to actively work within the county. There are statutes that Illinois 55 statute defines what the role of the county board is. The board chair does not take a vote unless there's a tie. The board chair does present an annual report to the board. The board chair helps develop the budget, and it is thereby developed and proved by the county commissioners. But from what I have heard and what I have learned, that has not happened in over 8 years. During this period of time, the current board chair has never gone to experience what it's like to be at the old coroner's office. I don't know if he's ever gone to the county jail. I know for a fact he has never taken a hand of the sheriff and said, "Good luck with your men tonight and your women tonight," as they go out in the night shift, and be there in the morning to welcome them back safely. The county chair represents the passion, commitment, and the needs of the county. It is not just about money, it is about people.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, 2 minutes.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Excuse me. How would you describe the leadership duties in the office of Kane County Board Chair? How will your experience enhance this leadership role?
Well, I think the primary function of the county board chairman is to serve at the advice and consent of the county board members. A big part of what the board does and responsibility that the chair has with the board is setting a budget not only for the department heads but for the elected officials. And fundamentally, there are a number of reasons why this is very critical and important. We want to make sure we efficiently handle the resources entrusted to us. And we've got a great track record of Kane County, and I'm proud to be working with people like Terry Hunt and Tom Hartwell, who have been critical in fulfilling the needs we have. Kane County, on the financial side, has a AA+ bond rating. We've worked very hard to accomplish that. We have had a tax freeze for over 8 years in Kane County. We fully fund our pensions, and we've paid down about 80% of our debt. We've had a lot of success in Kane County, and a lot of that is due to the chairman, the work and skill necessary to perform that function. The current chairman is a CPA. He's got extensive government experience. I'm also a CPA and have extensive government experience. And this is one role where I feel very comfortable because a lot of the policies adopted relating to accomplishing these wonderful goals were implementations of ideas I had in assistance with the finance group of accomplishing this. The other critical thing is having communication is very important. You need to work with the electeds who are not department heads. They have their own duties and responsibilities. They're responsible for their own areas of office. The department heads report to the board. They need close supervision, and they need somebody there on a day-to-day basis to make sure that the implementations that the county board members want is carried out. And finally, you have all the employees and unions at the office, that the board chairman has a responsibility to make sure we efficiently utilize our resources so we have enough money available to meet the needs of our citizens, our employees, and do so in an efficient, respectful manner of property taxpayers.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, we'll start this round off with you. Due to COVID-19, what are your recommended spending priorities, revenue opportunities, and spending cuts?
Oh, great. I'm really looking forward to this question. Is this a 2-minute 1-2, or shall we restrict it to 1?
We can make it 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. First, the county has a responsibility to ensure that first responders have the necessary tools available to combat COVID-19. This includes staff, technical assistance, personal protective equipment, and other logistical support necessary to meet the mission goals as outlined by the Center for Disease Control, the state of Illinois, and the county health department experts. The county needs to partner and coordinate relief efforts with local and municipal first responders and government entities. Much of these efforts are already taking place. In addition, information needs to continue to be regularly communicated in a clear and concise manner to media outlets and the public. Second, COVID relief efforts will place a significant strain on county resources, and budget and cash flow management will be critical in order to ensure we have the funds available so we could do the most good with the limited resources we have. As stated earlier, the county is in excellent financial position because of the things we've put in place before the COVID pandemic. Proper financial planning prepares for emergencies, and the county is well positioned to meet our responsibilities. Fiscal year 2020 will present a significant budget challenge. As treasurer, I'm already supplying investment cash flow projection information to the county finance committee. In addition, we are shortening our investment duration in order to provide the necessary liquidity to meet the needs of our duties and obligations. Finally, long-term damage has been incurred by our nonprofit organizations and small business community. In addition to federal relief funds, the county needs to take proactive and necessary steps to shore up our support structure for our nonprofit organizations and work with the local business community to help them get back on their feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Peter?
Could you repeat the question for clarity, please?
Perfectly. Couldn't do that. Due to COVID-19, what are your recommended spending priorities, revenue opportunities, and spending cuts? And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Kane County is going to be facing about an 18% budget cut projected for 2011. Salaries in Kane County over the last 8 years have been deflated. Some people who work for Kane County are considered eligible for affordable housing, making it about $40,000 a year. So when you start taking a look at any potential salary cuts, it cannot be, or tax cuts, it cannot be on the backs of the hardworking people within Kane County. That is wrong and inappropriate and something I will not support. However, out of that 18%, what happens? Kane County has been averse to looking at other opportunities besides taxes to increase its revenue base. One of which was presented last year was the ability to talk about developing a cannabis program. Not necessarily recreational marijuana, but grow centers that take a look at not only cannabis's medicinal use, but also as recreational use. Universities, colleges, junior colleges have done training programs for this, and yet the Kane County leadership has decided that they did not want that 3.75% tax revenue or develop new growth in businesses for that opportunity. Kane County has to be able to go towards the future, and it is not simply based on financial management. Yes, we have not had any property tax increase, but yet if we take a look at the 2017 mandated service plan, we can see that Kane County is cut to the bone right now and has nowhere else to go. So will budget cuts happen? They have to. But the reserves are low, and people who work for Kane County decide to leave so that they can go to greener pastures in other counties, and that is something that we have got to stop.
To expand on the financial problems due to COVID, but what problems besides revenue shortfalls have affected Kane County due to COVID-19? Ms. Pirat?
Kane County once had, the health department had well over 100 employees. Right now it has 63 employees. 63 employees are to serve 534,000 people. When asked for COVID relief funds early on in the discussion, and they asked for $14 million, it was cut back to $8 million. They were asked for masks because they wanted to distribute masks throughout the county. That was refused as well. Kane County also does not even celebrate or request health from its individuals. It had taken till last week to actually have a program up for the COVID-19 CARE Act funding for grant opportunities. And that money, once again, was delivered in late March. Nowhere has it asked its residents to wear masks to protect themselves, and yet COVID-19 continues to have a incredible impact here on the county with increased death rates and an increased positivity rate. So that's how COVID-19 has impacted Kane County.
Mr. Rickard?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. What problems besides revenue shortfalls have affected Kane County due to COVID-19?
That is a challenge we've all been facing all year long. One of the things we did right off the bat when we realized the impact that COVID-19 was going to cause for our citizens, I contacted my state legislators and conferred with them on what we can do at the local level to assist not only our citizens, but both from a health perspective, but from a financial perspective. And based on legislation that I proposed in information that I gave to the Illinois County Treasurers Association, we got a 30-day delay in interest penalty on property taxes. Now, that's a small effort, but we've had great restrictions in the scope of the services we can provide due to COVID-19. Additional duties supplied to us, additional things we have to do in order to carry out those duties. And I've worked very closely with Barb Jeffers, the head of the health department, and trying to work with and secure the proper and adequate funding she needs in order to do her job with PPE and other services that she provides.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, where should we be spending money or shifting policy to make our county and community recovery robust?
First and foremost, we need to focus on keeping our citizens healthy, making sure the health department gets the adequate materials they need to perform their duties, the staff that they need to perform their duties. I've been working very closely with Barb Jeffers, and it's been a challenge. I proposed earlier in the year a $5 million allotment back in May for PPE, and it was not the decision the board made. The board delayed that decision, and then they reduced the amount of PPE. So I think we need to trust our health professionals first. The primary duty and responsibility of any leader is to take care of and provide for the citizens entrusted to them, and I think that's our primary focus. Secondarily, we need to make sure we provide all the necessary tools they need, and part of that, a big part of that, is providing the adequate financing necessary in order to secure the assets we need as far as people, materials, and supplies to meet that mission goal.
Thank you. Ms. Pirag?
Repeat the question again, please.
Definitely. Where should we be spending money or shifting policy to make our county and community recovery robust?
It's going to take a long time, to be honest, to make the community robust. It's going to take several years. The pathway forward is going to be challenging, without question. We have economies starting to rise a little bit. The restaurants are open. They're surviving. And yet winter is coming, and the restaurants are going to start to close. There's going to be shuttered business that may never open. There are going to be job losses that may not return. There's going to be a high degree of unemployment. There's going to be homeless shelters that are going to be overcrowded. There's going to be people standing in line for food stamps. The county has to make sure that it has not just taxpayers' dollars, but also reaches out to our associates in the state, our federal representatives, asking for help, asking for assistance. It has to also make sure that it works with its not-for-profit partners, not just giving them $2 million because they have the brunt of the work that they have to do, so to make sure that they're adequately supplied with any resources available to the county to support our citizens.
Thank you. Ms. Pirag, how would you establish competitive entry-level salaries that would allow the state's attorney to hire and keep exceptional candidates?
My daughter was one of those assistant state's attorneys, and she left working at Kane County because she couldn't afford to stay there. I've known other women who have worked as assistant state's attorneys, and they've had to collect food stamps because they're also paying down student loans. There has to be adequate funding to make sure that not are we just being budget sensitive, but that we're being people smart, people sensitive, because people are the greatest value here. Our employees are our greatest asset. So we have to ensure that salaries are competitive with other counties and make a slow, gradual raise up so that our young adults, our entry-level professionals will feel comfortable staying here in Kane County.
Mr. Rickard,
Thank
how
you.
would you establish competitive entry-level salaries that would allow the state's attorney to hire and keep exceptional candidates?
The role of the county chairman in this capacity is to facilitate dialogue, budget priorities with the county board, department heads, and elected officials. As county treasurer, I'm already providing investment and disbursement and financial information to the county board. The prioritization of expenditures and resources are always limited for all the offices, and the priority is given to the county board to determine how, when, and where to budget. As chairman, I can provide guidance in that matter. I can provide assistance on what they should do, but ultimately the decision on budgeting rests with the county board. And also something to consider too is the state's attorney's office is the responsibility of the state's attorney. This is clearly outlined in state statute and is commonly referred to as their internal control statute. So if there is a need in the office that has a greater need than others in a budget with the elected officials, it's up to them to determine how to use the limited sources within their office, not the county board or the chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, how would you promote bipartisanship during these largely partisan times?
Well, that's a great question, and we've all watched the news and see how things work in Washington and how they also work in Springfield. Kane County is evenly split between Democratic county board members and Republican county board members. One of our countywide elected officials is Sheriff Hayne. So we have a good mix from both parties with diverse opinions on a lot of different issues, but for the most part, we work rather well together. I could sit down and have good conversations and actually have good friendships with a number of the county board members that are Democrats. One of the key things to make a successful chair is to be able to communicate, work with people in a constructive manner. We're not always going to agree on issues, but keeping that line of communication open is very important. And working with people is a demonstration of my ability to be able to work with people. I have the support of Chairman Chris Lawson and the support of the Forest Preserve President Mike Kenyon. I think about the only thing they do agree on is the fact that they think I'd do a good job as chairman. Thank you.
Ms. Virag, how would you promote bipartisanship during these largely partisan times?
As much history as I could research, Kane County has been controlled by one party, and the Republican Party. That time is to change. Once elected, I'm going to make sure that everyone keeps their politics outside the door, because it is not a Republican issue. It is not a Democratic issue. Money is not owned by Republicans. Money is not owned by Democrats. It is owned by the county and its representatives. We are there together to work towards what's best for Kane County, what's best for its future. Partisan politics has no place in county government. We simply are there to supply the best knowledge, resources, and opportunities for the people that we govern. We do not self-serve. it is service, it is servant leadership. And servant leadership is humble, and it is simply a way to provide the best stewardship for the county. Kane County has absolutely, as I said before, the budget has got to get the politics out of it.
Thank you. This will be their last question. Ms. Pirag, how will you reach out to the community for input on what is happening in Kane County?
There are 24 board members, 24 opportunities to meet with board members in their districts, to talk to the community, to have open forums, to have no agenda, to invite people to come and to learn and to listen, and actively listen, not with preconceived notions about what people should say or plants in the audience to answer specific questions, but have that opportunity to have an absolute real dialogue. 2 times a month, the board chair should go out with a representative of that particular district and sit down with members of that community and bring back that knowledge back to the county board, to the county manager, to talk about how we are going to develop long-term sustainable plans to make sure that Kane County moves forward, serving and satisfying the needs of its constituents.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, how will you reach out to the community for input on what is happening in Kane County?
Well, I think I have a slight advantage in that area. As treasurer for the past 21 years, during the peak tax collection season, I actually work the counter in my office, and I get a lot of feedback from taxpayers on what's happening in their areas, their feelings on property tax, both pro and con, and issues that they face. And we have a lot of people in Kane County that have a lot of needs, and we need to be proactive rather than reactive with those issues. One thing that's been done in the past that I agree with, former county chairmen have done this, is I would like to have regular meetings with the elected officials so we can keep those lines of communication open. Also, it's very important to reach out to the community, to attend community events. Matter of fact, I'm going to attend an event later this month with a group called the Fox Valley Initiative to hear about some of the issues and concerns they have. And reaching out to the many diverse groups. As a veteran, I have a keen interest in veteran issues and making sure we take adequate and proper care of the veterans that live in Kane County. So I can see my time is up, so I will stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's now time for closing statements. Ms. Pirag, would you start, please?
I would love to, thank you. I stand here or sit here as an independent whose support comes truly from the community. I stand for all of Kane County, and I'm not just a representative of a political party. Kane County is not a business. It is a government that welcomes you at birth, supports you as you grow, gives you opportunity to enjoy nature, and guides you if you fall off the tracks. Kane County's government is about people. We as a government must make every effort to improve a citizen's end-to-end user experience. Helping people is the very core of Kane County's values. This is what should be decided and considered before any decision is made. This is what keeps us up at night. I might not know the roadmap to solve every problem, but our shared values will guide me. Governing is truly a partnership. And I ask for your vote at the upcoming election so that together, as partners, we can lead Kane County forward. For information about my campaign, my website is electcorinepirog.com, and I am honored and thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Rickard, your closing comments, please.
Thank you. We've talked a lot tonight about a variety of different issues affecting and impacting the citizens of Kane County. An overriding issue that keeps coming back and a discussion we have to have is a lot of what we can do and can't do for our citizens revolves around the budget, getting the money we need in order to efficiently use the resources we have. We have over 1,300 employees. We have a significantly large budget, and you need the experience, the leadership, and the ability to accomplish that mission. We can't wait for tomorrow for training for somebody to learn on the job. We need somebody that could step on day one to deal with the global pandemic we're dealing with within Kane County. Somebody that can handle the budget, somebody that knows all the elected officials and has worked with them, and somebody who's well thought of, who communicates and can work with people. And I believe I'm that candidate. I certainly hope everybody votes on Election Day. I urge the voters to look at the qualifications of the candidates. Like I said, I have over 21 years working for the county. I've attended over 1,200 meetings at the county and the subcommittees, and I've also, like I said, passed 80 county board resolutions working with the very people that I'm going to have to serve with come the time we get sworn in. So once again, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Batavia League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event tonight. And by all means, remember to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of everyone here and watching virtually, I would like to thank you both for your participation in tonight's forum. I would also like to thank the Batavia Chamber and the Batavia Public Access for their support in bringing this evening's forums to you at home. You have many choices on how to vote on November 3rd election, either by mail, at an early voting location, or at your polling place on Election Day. We hope everyone will check the kanecountyclerk.org/elections website to either register to vote, confirm your registration, find early polling locations, or request a vote by mail. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I just want to remind everyone that 2 weeks from tonight, September 24th, there will be yet another candidates forum, semi-virtual, held here at Batavia City Hall. We will be hosting the candidates for state races in the Illinois Representative District number 50, number 65, number 49, and the Illinois State Senate District 25. We should start at 6 o'clock, barring any unforeseen circumstances, and go through until about 9 o'clock. Please stay tuned. It will be on BATV as it is tonight, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.